Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am at Historic Federal Hill in Bardstown, Kentucky. Bardstown is known as one of the great small towns of America, according to some publications in recent years. But I am here to check out this place called Federal Hill, which was owned by the prominent Kentuckian Rowan family. We're going to be learning a lot about them. And right behind me is a mansion that was built in 1818. It's been fully restored. For a little history, it is the inspiration, well, it was kind of somewhat known to be the inspiration for my old Kentucky home, because Stephen Foster, who was one of the great songwriters of the 19th century in America, he had visited that place because, like I said, he was very prominent, and he was actually a cousin of the Rowans, well, John Rowan, which we're going to learn about. And Foster wrote a lot of great songs. However, his life was short-lived, and he died at the age of 37. So Rowan's granddaughter deeded the place to the state of Kentucky in 1923. She was the last surviving of the kids and all the descendants and all that. So this place is now known as my old Kentucky home state park. If you look on the back of a Kentucky state quarter, which was issued in the 2000s, yes, it may look familiar to you. Now, I did go into the house. Unfortunately, they did not allow any photography or videography. I can understand that. Most old houses don't, but I do highly recommend the tour. It was $18, discounts for seniors and military members. So I'm going to go ahead and just take you around the property, show you the house. Again, I did not take any photos or video, but hope you find this one entertaining and very interesting. All right, let's get on with the tour. So getting here, it's not hard. All you gotta do is just get off in the main drag. It's pretty much east of downtown, maybe about a mile. And then here is the building. You can see it's all spread out, but don't let that fool you. The gift shop and where to buy your tickets for the tour is there. It's open 9 to 5. I do not think it's open on the weekends, but I'll definitely check the hours before you go in. This is my old Kentucky home garden. And then I'm going to go ahead and check out that marker. But before I do that, I just want to show you the privy. It's circa 1818. It was moved in 1970 just to provide a little, what do you call it? Just something to help accompany the property. How's that? And first off, I'm going to go ahead and read off this marker put up by the Kentucky Historical Society and the Department of Highways. This was put up in 1967, marker number 1102. Federal Hill, my old Kentucky home. Inspiration for the state song of Kentucky by Stephen Collins Foster in 1853. Judge John Rowan, cousin, owned and had built back wing in 1795 and the front in 1818. Federal Hill became renowned as a center of legal, political, and social activity. In Senate, Rowan led amending U.S. judicial system and ending imprisonment for debt. Okay. And it says the same thing on the back, like most Kentucky markers do. Alright, so here is the house. And tours are usually available. I mean, I'm sure you can get them online, but I was kind of one of those last minute people. And then the tour guide, who is extremely helpful, she'll meet you at that door whenever that time comes. And I apologize for the sunlight, but yes, that is just a frontal view of the mansion. And it's very cool because, you know, it reminds you of, I don't want to say simpler times, because back then they had no electricity. But when it was given to the state of Kentucky, it was interesting because a lot of the great nieces and nephews were fighting over a lot of the the possessions that were in the house. But they all stayed in there, and the state of Kentucky kept them, and they're still in there because they wanted to make sure the place looked like as it was when the Rowan family lived there. And still, there's still a lot of furniture that existed when John Rowan Sr. lived there. The tour guide said about 75%. And of course, at the time I'm doing this video, it's fall, so that's why they had that little pumpkin patch there. And notice this. Yes, this is where you had to chain your horse to. I don't know why I get a kick out of those things. Now down there in front of the house is the old spring house. That was built in 1818 as well. It was used to secure clean drinking water and for cool food storage. But it was rebuilt in the 1950s using original stones. And unfortunately we weren't allowed to go in there. But I think it's cool that it's there anyway. And it looks like there was a marker that told all about it, but looks like it's missing. That's okay. Alright, so we're gonna go elsewhere on the property. This is a 3-story house. There was a ballroom on top and we weren't allowed to go up there. But either way, I thought it was very interesting. Here's a little cistern that was outside the house. It says on the marker there, water collected by the mansion's gutter system was piped into this large underground brick holding tank known as a cistern. The collected water was used for daily purposes, including drinking, washing, clothing, and watering nearby vegetable gardens. The natural spring due north of here may have been unreliable as a water source during periods of drought. Huh, very nice. And then over here was where the orchard was, and a farmyard. And that's where they planted vegetables. And look, another empty historical marker. I wonder why they took them down. Oh well. This is likely to have been the stable. Okay, I'm gonna go this way. Doesn't look like there's any other path around here. But yeah, those are the stables, and those are modern restrooms anybody can use. And then here is the back of the house. When we finished the tour, that was where we exited, at that door right there. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at the gardens real quick before I make my way back to the visitor center. And now we have the Stephen Foster statue. And like I said, he had wrote many songs. Some are still being sung today as part of our American heritage, like "Oh Susanna," "Camptown Races," yeah. A lot of them are in public domain. Let's see what it says here. Stephen Collins Foster was the composer of Kentucky's state song, "My Old Kentucky Home." The sculpture was created by Abby Godwin and generally donated by the Honorable Order of Kentucky Colonels, June 4th, 1994. He also wrote the state song of Florida, believe it or not. That's what the tour guide was telling us. Behind him is the cemetery. I'll take you there in a second. I want to check out this gazebo. All right, so that right there, of course, is the gazebo. It looks pretty big. I'm sure a lot of major events are held there. Also, it looks like I saw some photos of people getting married here. So yeah, pretty cool. I mean, if you're a proud Kentuckian and live around here, then yeah, it would make perfect sense to have your wedding here, or a reception, or both. And then here's a couple plaques. This one is about Stephen Foster again. Born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, July 4th, 1826. If you ask me, it's a coincidence. Hopefully you know 2 people who died on that exact day, who on a visit to Kentucky in 1852 wrote in this house the immortal song, "My Old Kentucky Home." The sun shines bright in my old Kentucky home. Sorry, I can't get the music, but presented by the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1922. Today, he is still considered one of Pittsburgh's favorite sons. And this is pretty much just a dedication plaque. Dedicated July 4th, 1923. July 4th is a very great day, I tell you. And this here is the Rowan family cemetery. There are about close to 40 interments here. 38 to be exact. But that big one right there is the patriarch of the Rowan family, John Rowan Sr. Born July 12, 1773 in York, Pennsylvania, died July 13th, 1843 in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, I'm not going to read the inscription below it, but I'll tell you a little bit about him, though. Now you're going to be learning a lot about, again, the family, like John Rowan Jr. and many that died during the cholera epidemic and the Civil War. But he was a U.S. congressman, a U.S. senator. He moved with his family as a young boy to Kentucky, where he was educated at local schools. He studied law. He was admitted to the Kentucky bar in 1795. In 1801, he was involved in a duel where he shot and killed another man and was later acquitted due to insufficient evidence. He served as Kentucky's Secretary of State from 1804 to 1806, and then was elected as a Republican to represent Kentucky's 3rd Congressional District in the United States House, serving from 1807 to 1809. And then he was elected to the United States Senate in 1824. And as a special bonus, this is off Route 31 East, and this is a historical marker put up by the Kentucky Historical Society in 1969. This was where Rowan Sr. had a duel with one of his friends. The story started out, they were drunk, they were playing, I guess, some sort of card game. It might have been poker or something, and it was a liquor talking, and one of them said, "I bet you anything I can recite Bible verses in Hebrew and Latin and a bunch of other languages." Well, soon it became a duel, and because shots were not allowed to be fired inside Bardstown city limits, which is just a mile up that way, the duel was set here. It says here on the marker, site in Valley to East, one of the most famous duels in Kentucky because of prominent men involved. John Rowan, later jurist, U.S. Senator. His second, George M. Bibb, Kentucky Chief Justice, U.S. Senator, Secretary of Treasury. Dr. James Chambers was a popular local physician. An argument on January 29, 1801 climaxed in duel on February 3rd. Dr. Chambers was killed in the second round of firing. Wow. So it happened somewhere near here. And it says the same on the back of the marker. But I thought I'd come down here and show this to you. It's some very interesting stuff. Now the interment with the lady crying, it says, "Sacred to the memory of Madge Rowan Frost, beloved last mistress of my old Kentucky home. Weep no more, my lady." "Weep no more, my lady" is one of the song lyrics to that old Kentucky song. But she was the one that put in the will that this house be in the hands of the state of Kentucky. Her full name was actually Margaret Holt Rowan Frost, born in 1855 in Bardstown, and then died on February 4th at the age of 71 in 1926. So some interesting information. And then there are some markers about slavery in Kentucky. Rowan also owned some slaves. I forgot how many that he owned at one time, but his son freed all the slaves after Rowan Sr. passed away because he was very anti-slavery. And yeah, he pretty much sent him along his way, and he actually got a paid staff to take care of the house as servants. So I am Jason in Bardstown, Kentucky, signing off.